up, and not one but many of them taught the correct understanding of iconography, of icons, and why we have them. Not as objects of worship, heaven forbid, but as reflections of transfigured people, transfigured men that have reached the heavenly realm and have found salvation, and who become our models and our guides in the life that we have to lead, so that we too can imitate them and become transfigured ourselves in our lives. On this particular day, that particular aspect is brought forth for us, which culminates towards the end of the day with a procession around the temple or the streets or wherever, people carrying icon, declaring to everybody else, whether they be Orthodox or not, who live in the streets, what we are doing and why. And when people ask about this, you need to be able to give a good account of that, a true account of why we believe the way we believe. This is why every year on this particular day, a very important day, the church itself gives an account so that there is no misgivings at all in our understanding of things. And after liturgy on these days, particularly where a bishop is present in a parish, there is a very long service called the service of anathema. During this particular service, there are read out, firstly, the Holy Fathers and Mothers that correctly gave us the understanding of the true faith. And we say to their memory eternal, glorifying them by this fact. But in addition to this, there is a long, long list of anathemas, that is, the banishing, the expunging, the taking away, the erasing of wrong beliefs, right from the beginning of Christianity to our days. So right from the beginning of Christianity, when particularly the church was freed in the 4th century, and the persecutions against Christians were stopped by St. Constantine the Great through the Edict of Milan, there arose three thinkers, something that the world is proud of, to be a free thinker. Think any way you like, but don't think away the way the church has taught you to think. And these free thinkers rushed into the church and started to blabber heretical, wrong lies, wrong understanding of the faith. One of the first ones was about, in fact all of them, if you want to distill it down to its very last drop, it's all about who is Christ, who is he? And these free thinkers started to say all sorts of absurd things, that Christ is not part of God, not an eternal person, that he was created. Some say that he was a special man that was chosen to have miraculous gifts, and this and that and this and that, and on it went. And for several hundred years, culminating in the 7 ecumenical councils over the centuries, the church put to rest all of these heresies, all of these wrong beliefs. And during this Sunday, each year, the church takes account of that, goes through these heresies and expunges them by saying anathema to them. But, as I said to you, if you'd speak to anybody about our faith and they bring up some new topic and they say to you, how do you know that this is wrong? You say that each year, in addition to these anathemas and all the things that have happened in the past, each year the church takes account of anything new that may have popped up, any new deviation from the faith. One of the biggest ones, of course, is this whole idea of modern ecumenism, where there is this belief amongst a lot of Christians in the world that the church is still being formed, that all these, Orthodoxy, Catholicism, methods, all those are all parts of a branch which is coming together. No, that is not true. The church was given in fullness at Pentecost, and there's no branches. And all these others are not part of the church. And that is one of the anathemas of our times that is given during this particular service. And there are many other things like this that pop up. When you think about it, the past few years, we can add quite a few anathemas. Quite a few. Something to the effect of those who believe that the gifts, the Eucharist, can be a proper propagation of sickness and pandemic. Anathema, which is what's happened the past few years. Those who accept the use of spoons in the Eucharist, which are then washed down the drain or thrown away with the particles of the gifts on them. Anathema. Those who believe that the priests and the altar and the flock that comes into the purity of the church has to have masks and dress themselves against all these things. Anathema to that. And so forth, and so forth. We can go on, finding all these deviations. Those who, and this particularly goes for some of the bishops in our time, who accept gifts from Masonic and worldly institutions in order to have some sort of power upon the church and its establishment. Anathema. You don't have to go far to see that. Just go and drive through the suburbs and you will see these signs on the streets, Greek Orthodox Church, or that Antiochian Church, or this, pointing to some place where people have had a special favour from the government, and because of that favour, whatever the government tells them, they do it, and they can't refuse because they've accepted these gifts, they've accepted these sorts of free reigns in the world. That is one of the things that has to be avoided by the true Orthodox. You cannot have those sorts of things happening. It doesn't matter whether you have a sign up there, Orthodox Church, or not. People will find you if they want to find you. You don't have to have all that there. Nor do you have to accept gifts of millions of dollars, as has recently happened with one particular jurisdiction, from the government. And what is the government? Certainly not Christian. It's Antichrist. For sure. In our time, for sure, it is the servants of Antichrist working. These are the sort of things that on this particular day, Sunday of Orthodoxy, are mentioned, particularly in a parish where there's a bishop, a righteous bishop, who knows what's going on and who is correctly informing and teaching the people so that they can give an account not only of their own personal situation, which is what Great Lent's all about, that personal examination of yourself, but an account of all the other things that are happening in the church as a whole, in order to keep it pure, to expunge it of any wrong teachings, because as Christ said, the church will be pure and unblemished in even the smallest way. There will be no wrong things about it at all. That's the message that we get on this particular day, the Sunday of Orthodoxy, a very important feast day, a very important day in the calendar, which occurs every year as a sort of a refreshing of all those things that we believe and all the things that we don't believe, because when those anathemas are read out in the church, sometimes there is a little note given about where they arose, when and for what reason, and by whom. We have right now some at least 50 wrong understandings from Rome, for example. One of the ones that is so hurtful to us all the time is this idea of Immaculate Conception of the Mother of God, that the Mother of God was somehow zapped when she was in the womb to be incapable of sinning. In other words, they trash her virtue. She gained sanctity by her virtuous life, not because she was miraculously zapped like a robot, but because she lived a life free of sin, free of transgression, free of doing anything wrong. Anathema to that sort of belief. Anathema. Hence, we continue with this particular day. Every year, it is commemorated on the first week of Great Lent, and puts everything into perspective. Not only are our personal accountability required during the 40 days, but that of the church. And if you come across any of the wrong aspects in your talks with others, just refer back to this particular day and to what is said. And there are texts on that. It's quite a long service, depending on how much the bishop wants to go into all the anathemas. But it is a very important one because it really goes into the very heart of what we believe in this one particular service. You don't have to read lots of books because it's all there summarized, exactly what our beliefs are and what our beliefs are not. And we glorify those who have correctly taught us by saying to them, memory eternal, and we say anathema to those who have not given us the right understanding of this. God help us with this in our struggles, and may we be able to meet the resurrected Lord in the right frame of mind. If not fully transfigured, but at least somewhat transfigured in our lives to know what is going on. Amen.